what the outlook is for the year 2023. What names should make it to your portfolio? Well, we at ET Now interacted with some of the best minds in the world of markets for recommendations that will help you navigate the market in 2023. Hear it out from Sanjiv, Bhasin, Siddhartha, Bhaiya, as well as Jigar, Mistry, as they list out their top bets for 2023.
I think the worst of IT may be behind. You'll have another quarter or so. And if I could put my money, Nasdaq below 10,800, I'd buy a lot of those stocks. Okay, a lot of the bad news is in those stocks, 50% and beyond.
Just wanted to ask, you said that Tech Mahindra or the IT sector may see not that great numbers, but markets are already priced in. That's what you're trying to say.
They're priced in everything and to eternity. Look, these are cash-rich companies. They work on outsourcing and the new themes, whether it's AI or cloud computing. They are very, very ingenious in how they are working. And none of them have given any warning. The only thing was HCL Tech 15.5 to 13.5. We may be at the lower end because of budgets. And the markets make a lot of... Also, Anisha, it tells you that this year has been a tale of two cities. Yeah. If you were stuck with Infosys and you didn't migrate to ICICI, then you are saying this is not a bull market. But then you have to smell what's going on around you. And you have to be aware of the PSU banks were the most hated. And now suddenly people have risen to the fact that they exist and they are profit making and they trade at half-time price to book. So Tech Mahindra would be my top pick over there. The BFSI space, the alliance with British Telecom is a very, very sweet spot. And I think Tech Mahindra is perfectly fitting the bill with hardly any downside and maybe a 40% upside if things get back to normal. See, I'm a person who's always positive and I think geopolitics and Fed are all getting priced in.
No, well, absolutely. I think if 2022 had to be summed up in one sentence, it will be the sector churn, because that was the key highlight that really worked out for people this year. But, the sector churn is something that we also saw in the auto sector, Siddharth, right? You still are bullish on it when it comes to 2023, but would you want to make the distinguish between, let's say, the two-wheeler, the four-wheeler? Because this year it was a lot about commercial vehicle followed by passenger vehicle. Do you finally think it will drill down to two-wheeler vehicles as well?
So I was yesterday and I was speaking to somebody who's related to Hero Honda, and I said last 20 years I've heard number of times the death of Hero Honda, and it is still there. So at some point in time, two-wheeler growth will come. See, I put out something 6 months back saying everything was negative for the auto sector. Right, oil prices were high, commodity prices were high. The EV story was supposed to, kill a lot of these companies. The only thing was that the auto index for over a 5-year period had delivered negative returns. Most of the stocks were sub 12 P multiple, including all the OEs, with nearly 20-25% net cash on the balance sheet. And then since then, the story is turned around 360 degrees, right? Metal prices have gone down, oil prices have gone down, interest rates in India are not increasing at the rate at which they've increased in this. So again, at the end of the day, yes, over the 5-year period, while the auto index had not delivered much returns, 5 years back, the darlings of the market was Maruti, and what actually did well 5 years later was Tata Motors and Mahindra & Mahindra. So I think being contrarian at any point in time is going to help, and value investing, again, as I said. So there is value in auto, there is going to be growth, and these are the companies who are going to drive the shift to EV as and when it comes.
All right, so auto would be the next one after infrastructure, but be selective and look at value. Jigar, you said about Max Financial. What will be your next pick for our viewers?
Banking still remains an interesting space because, see, historically you've seen the rise in interest rates be followed by rising NPAs. But you have to look at it from pre-2015, before the AQR and IBC was launched, and post-2015, when over the past 5 years, all incremental lending has gone to retail. To that extent, I think this space is unlikely to see a huge blowout like we saw with the previous rising cycles, and some part of it might be priced in with the large cap names. But IDFC Bank is one name which looks interesting. Historical legacy book of infrastructure which had a lot of problems.
No, it's IDFC Bank or IDFC Limited?
Yeah, I'm just coming to the stock pick is limited, but that is just the holding company for the bank. Right, so that bank has grown sort of your retail deposit 5x over 5 years, and your liability franchise is growing, retail franchise is growing. They'll do something like a 1.3% ROA year down the line, 14% ROE available at 1.2 times price to book. So in and of itself, the bank is interesting, but we think the better way to own it is through IDFC Limited. because like to like at 63 odd bucks on the bank, you own 1.4 shares per share of IDFC, right? So 63 times 1.4, and you have just sold the mutual fund, which will equate to something like 26 odd rupees more for per share basis. So I think the better way to play this cycle still would be owning IDFC Limited rather than the bank, and you'll still continue to own the whole banking suite spot.
But we've seen time and again, holding companies don't tend to re-rate so much as the main companies do. So why this name?
Right. It's the structure collapse is already pre-announced. Right?
So someday it will convert.
No, not someday. They already announced it that once the foundation gets sold, once your the mutual fund gets sold. So mutual fund has just received the SEBI clearance. The foundation has received all clearances. Once the transfer happens, then there will be meetings in order to assess that. I would assume sometime around in CY23, you will get to see the whole collapse of that structure.
Right. Just have one thing for Siddhartha as well. One of his interesting sector picks is pharma. Now, when we look at pharma, only in 2020 it did well. I mean, pricing issues, US FDA, more launches, prices coming down, margins not really, companies not being able to do succession planning properly. What do you think will change? Because the only reason it will go up is there will be something which the market is pricing in that will be different. So what is that one or two things that you're looking in the sector?
If the markets go down, people would need more medicines. No, jokes apart, I think pharma over the last decade or so, right, a lot of pharma stocks, if you look, say, a Lupin or anything, are quoting at, a decade low, right? Pharma as a sector has not done well. Pharma growth for a lot of domestic companies has been very strong, between 15 to 17% last couple of months, right? While valuations are attractive, it's not right within our buying zone right now, but I think over the next 1 year, pharma as a sector is going to throw up a lot of opportunities.
So what would you look at? US companies, hospitals, or India companies?
No, clearly not hospitals.
Okay.
Clearly not.
So US-based, India-based,
so we'll be looking at pharma companies. The top pharma companies would typically tend to have exposure both to the domestic and the regulated markets as well. So we're looking at the top companies in that. We've started working on it, but we don't have anything in our portfolio as yet. It's just that we wait for a lot more margin of safety before we would want to enter.
So some element of change in US generic, some element of change in launches, that's what you would look at. All right.
He's bearish on the market, but not as far as to go down that the hospital demand will go up.
Yeah, so we'll just need the medicines perhaps and we'll
probably
be okay.
only some hypertension drugs.
Okay. So maybe a year of, let's say, no return, but not, let's say, a big negative return. But okay, Jigar, talk to us about a pick coming in, let's say, in the small cap space or a mid cap category.
Right. So, we all live in Mumbai. We see those huge mountains in Devnar. And,
which we don't want to see.
Which we don't want to see. But what we don't know is that, a lot of methane is trapped in there, and that becomes a potential sort of powder keg that can get, blown up anytime. So there's this one company which basically does this work for Mumbai. Now it's got a lot of stuff for, municipal waste cleaning in Noida, Varanasi, Jhansi. And this waste needs to be cleared in a much more systematic fashion rather than just the ad hoc dumping on top of each other. Anthony Waste is one such business which we own and we like because the future of municipalities has to be scientific segregation and a proper disposal of municipal waste. And this company has tied up with a Brazilian company before, and that's the way they are going ahead. So I think it's I think sub 1,000 crore in market cap. The opportunity is fairly large, given the arrangement that they already have with the contracts that they've got. The fair value is much higher, but the
Where
optionality.
Is that fair value? It's 310 at the 300, 350 thereabouts. What's the fair value?
So they have got this Kanjurmarg project, which in my calculation is itself worth 800 crore or more, even if it's not renewed. Then there are all the future consignments. So fair value, of the current projects that they got is at least 60% higher than the current market price. But we are much more excited about what this can bring as municipalities, try to save a lot of waste being dumped in the open.
Our last pick, which will come in from Sanjiv, and Sanjiv has given Motherson. Firstly, which Motherson company?
Yeah.
Now there are 3 Motherson companies, and why that name?
So I'll just take on to what Siddhartha said. Auto was supposed to be the worst sector in the last 2 years, and people said $90 and $100. Can you believe the waiting for V7? Can you believe the waiting for Maruti and so on? I was just with one of my clients in the last 3 days, who's one of the largest Toyota dealers, and he had a booking of the new Lexus SUV. It's worth 3 crore. He has 12 bookings. Now that tells me someone is putting his money where his mouth is. And he says, I wonder why they buy this, because in 1 year, so I think autos are very, very under-owned, and there is the aspiration. Remember, from cycle to motorcycle to scooter to Alto and Ertiga is all a aspiration. So Motherson Sumi is a mother of all as far as the OEMs go. I'm talking of Samvardhana, not the wireless. They've just got a large contract from Boeing for interiors. They've set up a plant in Algeria now. They have always promised a lot, and you know their bread and butter belongs to Europe, even though the India numbers are very strong. And complete OEMs after Bosch, I think they and Motherson take the cake. I am also looking for Europe coming back in a big way. Look, all recession and talk and all always muddles you. But October numbers in auto are telling me that European sales in the last 2 years were the highest. And when you come back out of all this hiatus, then the OEMs will be the one. So I am saying Motherson at these prices is the cheapest, largest OEM, which is a global presence and can be a very, very big outperformer. Even a doubler from here is possible.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है, पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाइड क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
Reimagineering brighter futures with smarter steels.
Radiant Cash Management Services Limited. Initial public offering of equity shares of face value of 1 rupee each through the book building process with a price band of 94 rupees to 99 rupees per equity share. Bid offer opens on Friday, December 23, 2022 and closes on Tuesday, December 27, 2022. For risk factors and more details, please refer to the RHP available on the websites of SEBI, the book running lead managers and the stock exchanges.
देश का हर अरमान पूरा करे एक नाम श्री राम लाना ले जाना बेचना खरीदना कमाना बचाना सलाह पाना जोधपुर तिरुपुर एग्दूर गोवा पटना दिल्ली हावड़ा श्री राम के साथ आगे बढ़ना।
श्री राम फाइनेंस लिमिटेड, आपकी प्रगति का